So what I did here was plug in a new topic to start us off with a seed, which is our parent. And from there, we're looking at how we can expand outward so that we can build an ecosystem of pages to reinforce an authority that we're aiming towards. So in this case, we can support product management software with a page on product lifecycle management software, agile project management software, product road mapping tools, requirements management tools, and so on and so forth. How we prioritize these opportunities is based on the market signals we're seeing here, starting off with exposure value. What is the volume? How many users are typically searching for a given keyword per month? What is the keyword difficulty, average competition around a given keyword? The average DR is going to be important for us because that we can trace back to our own DR, that is domain rating, a representation of our authority. And we're dealing with a 0.8 going up against an average of 80, 82, 78, and down the list. So that's where we have to be hyper-focused on the 80-20 so that we're finding opportunities that come with a lower grade authority. And that just means we're able to find a domain on the first page that has a DR that is relatively similar to ours because we're shooting for the second lowest. So that gives us a representation of average authority, in other words, average competition, average friction, and the lowest form of that friction that lives on the first page for each tool. And this is the traffic mark. That is the expected amount of traffic we can expect based off of what this result is pulling in. So if we are at 0.8, we would need to be looking for the lower results that garner some sort of traction where we're able to use that and leverage existing authorities to build new ones. Once we have our selections made, we're able to move into the next stage, which is now producing the content, producing the page. And in order for us to produce a page, we need to determine what type of page that is going to be. So how we're able to differentiate the type of content and how all of that content works together towards one uniform authority. So once we've selected, let's say, yes, we do want to at least produce a set of blogs around road mapping, starting off with the seed itself. We'll create brief, which takes us to select keywords. Okay. Now we have a list of 28 keywords that are curated and listed based off of its relevance to the root. So that is looking at the first two pages of Google to determine how many intersects and how likely it is for a page to be ranking for Y keyword when ranking for X keyword. So that is determined by cluster relevance. We can measure the intent of each keyword, knowing that this now is a list of keywords that will solely represent the page that we're building now, and obviously have interlinks to other pages, but the primary purpose here is to support our root product roadmap. Okay. Now we're happy with the selection here. Now we might want to have a page specifically for agile product road mapping. So we'll remove that from the list, confirm the keywords. And now it's developing the brief and outline. That's the final stage, allowing us to hand over to the writer an asset that has instructions, that has the architecture set up, that's your headings, and as well keyword insertions across the content of the blog, so that we know exactly what needs to be produced, where, and all of that has been framed, again, based off of the success stories on the first page. I think we're ready to go into voice of customer and customer feedback. So we have 35 and 39. Customer opinion, performance reviews, and I would think that this is a little bit broad since we went in broad with customer feedback. Yep. Survey for customer feedback, I think that would be one of the checks. Customer feedback survey, and if you want to think out loud with me here, Bryan, as well, going through the list
here. Let's see here. Customer feedback platforms, a comparison one. Product ratings, the rating review websites. It's actually pretty solid. How to collect, getting it, get customer feedback.
So we have a few here for survey, customer feedback, survey question, survey for customer feedback, customer survey. Out of those, I'm looking for those quick wins. So it doesn't look like survey is
brand new domain
competition. Customer opinion, we would say, is the alternative route. So customer opinion as well is pretty broad, because what I'm looking at here is low authority mark, meaning low authority or competition that's represented on the low end of the scale, as well as traffic being generated. Not so much about the volume. That can be ultimately play into a factor, but right now, when we're looking page by page, in the short term, how we can move the needle with the least amount of effort, it's aligning ourselves with probably
those three.
These ones. Okay. And that's what we're looking at here, which is the final output. Our page outline on the right-hand side, and the metadata on the left with a summary of what has been used on the outline from word count target into the keywords that were selected from the previous stage, so that we have a reference point on where we stand across those keywords. And that allows us to report back on micro movements, not at the page level, but keyword level. And on the right-hand side, we have our heading breakdown down to paragraph guidelines for the content writer, knowing what they need to incorporate in terms of keywords to produce something that we know, again, lines up with performers and user intent.
So that's getting fairly specific, though. I mean, even I'm seeing the paragraph symbol there. So like, that's give me a paragraph that really highlights this content under this heading. Am I reading that accurately?
Yep.
Wow.